Well, hello and welcome to Minnesota Homeownership Center's Welcome Home Podcast. My name is Bill Gray, and today we've got a really stellar panel of experts that are ready to walk you through the process of achieving home ownership. Now, this show is especially aimed at those who think they wouldn't be able to pull it off successfully. So, listen closely and share this episode after we publish it on our website with someone you think needs to hear the content. All right, joining me today are Linda White, a homeownership advisor with Model Cities here in town. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you.
Next, we have Kim Smith-Moore, a realtor and owner of Promise Realty. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you.
And then finally, we have Trent Bowman, a community impact VP at Bremer Bank. Welcome, Trent.
Thank you.
All right, so let's dig in. Linda, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about Model Cities, and then tell us about your work as a homeownership advisor. What's your typical client's financial situation when they come to you, and how do you help them pull off buying a house?
Okay. Thank you, Bill. And special thanks to you and the Home Ownership Center for hosting us in this podcast.
Sure. Thank you.
Model Cities has been providing services in St. Paul since 1967. We've transitioned from providing primary health care services to those who didn't have access. The word access or lack of access continues to come up even in our work with home ownership. After that, the Open Cities Health Center took over the healthcare part, and we continue to provide the same level of services in coaching with youth on probation, crisis intervention, housing, case management with people who are formerly homeless, and many supportive housing and affordable housing programs. A few years ago, many may not realize that we opened a homeless shelter, and we're providing services through that today. It was in fall of 2017 that we moved into the new brownstone building in St. Paul, where we provide 35 affordable housing units and also commercial spaces, and our offices are there as well. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge 4 dynamic African-American women who have paved the way, who have provided leadership during that growth and development. First, the late Timothy Van, Dr. Beverly Hawkins, and today Kizzy Downey, our CEO, and Makisha Haw, our Director of Economic Services. Over the last 10 years, I would say that we have significantly improve the services around home ownership. We have 3 home ownership advisors or housing counselors, myself, Linda White, Jeff Wills, and Ebony Williams. We are all HUD certified housing counselors. First, I want to talk about pre-purchase counseling. This is one-on-one counseling, and it provides our clients with a view of their credit, development of a household budget, which is really important, and where they are and need to be with savings. Also, we work with our partners to understand the mortgage lending requirements and also to be able to assess our clients where they are in relationship to that. Now, if you are someone or know someone who is tired of paying $1,800 a month for rent, who lost a job at some point, now has one, got behind on bills, but wants to work toward home ownership, or hasn't really worked with a household budget, but really need to, because if they purchase, they need to manage that mortgage payment, or just simply doesn't know the path to get on to work toward home ownership. We can work with you from as little as 3 months up to 3 years as well. Now, in addition to pre-purchase counseling, we have our home stretch workshops. We provide in that 8 hours a complete overview of the whole process. Not only does our own staff work to facilitate, but we call in professionals like Kim and Trent here to provide information on what they do as part of that process and how to access those services as well. Once you get done with the home stretch workshop, and they are available today even on Saturdays and Sundays, you will get a certificate which helps you access down payment assistance. So we certainly encourage you to come and work with us, whether pre-purchase counseling, home stretch workshops, our financial education classes that we provide via other nonprofits and so on. We know how important it is to earn your trust. And with that trust, what we promise you is there is no judgment. Wherever you happen to be, that's where we're going to meet you and help you along that path to home ownership. I want to leave you with 2 credit tips. I want to make sure that you all know when you are trying to increase your scores, maybe to keep your balance to your limit on credit cards at 30% or less. That's going to keep your scores going up, especially if you want to improve your scores. Also, don't miss that minimum payment on your credit cards. If you do, you will see your scores go down 30, 40 points. If you have any doubt about whether you're going to remember to make that payment, put it on auto pay. And I think that's going to help you. To contact us, modelcities.org, and that is on the screen, and we will be so very happy to work with you. Come see us.
Linda, that was awesome. Thank you very much for that. So basically, a client comes to you. Well, let me ask you this question, because this is something that I always wonder. If anyone is interested in home ownership, they can come to you and you can look at their circumstances and figure out how they might be able to achieve it. Is it fair to say that you can help? You can kind of build a roadmap for pretty much anyone that wants to commit to this and pursue home ownership?
And commitment. Mm-hmm. We have a commitment for our clients. Yeah. We want our clients to certainly be as committed. Uh-huh. So that means keeping in touch with us as we're going down that road and following up. Yep. But yes, we're going to provide that path. Yeah. And that is even goes to the extent of if they have maybe a collection item on their credit report, don't have a clue on how to work on that. We're going to dig in. That's great. We're going to help them. If we need to write a letter to the credit bureaus or to the creditor, we will help them do that. Because that's so intimidating, and I don't know how to do this and stuff, but advisors know how. Exactly, and we're willing to do it. We have a common goal of getting that person to where they need to be to apply for a mortgage, be approved, and start building wealth through home ownership. And be able to stay in that home in a sustainable situation. And that's where that budget is so important. Yeah. Yes. See, I think that's really key to what we do. We're not just about getting you into a home. We're about getting you into a home sustainably so that you can build wealth. Absolutely. Two additional pieces of that sustainability so that you can build wealth. Absolutely. So that's great. Well, thank you so much. So Linda is one of almost 100 homeownership advisors that we have in our network based in local nonprofit organizations across the state. Like she said, these advisors tailor their advice to you and to your specific financial and other circumstances. And the services are free to anyone in Minnesota. So you've got nothing to lose by exploring homeownership for yourself. That's See if you might be able to take it on. All right, that's great. Trent, let's turn to you next. You're with Bremer Bank these days, but you've been in the achieving home ownership business here in the Twin Cities for the 20s. That's good. The Twin Cities for a long time. What are the challenges you see as a banker as you work with lower income households and households of color as they try to achieve home ownership?
Good question. I think one of the things that I see in the community from a low to moderate income borrower is assets. Assets and credit would be, or credit and assets, depending on which way you want to put it. I think, and these are very sensitive topics, in the community. So we have to be very careful on how we speak on this, because we don't want people to think we're telling them you can't live. But we also have to be cognizant if there is an opportunity for home ownership that they want. We really got to give them that messaging of changing the behavior, changing the mind state. Linda talks about having folks enter or go to the first-time home buyers class or go through the counseling. Well, that's a part of the slow yes. So you gotta start somewhere in order to get the slow yes versus the fast no. One of the things that I also see is, when we're talking, to our consumers or our potential home buyers, we're really low on assets because we're spending. In the African American community, and you can Google this. This is not a Trent thing. This is facts that's out there. We're $1 billion spenders. So when we're $1 billion consumers, and when I have the one-on-one consultations or I do consultations with individuals, I see two things, and that equivalent to the spending. Where our credit is high. Linda talked about 30% utilization or lower.
The ratio, yeah.
Exactly. We're at 90, 95, 80% utilization. So our assets are low. So what do we have in our checking account? Maybe $1,000. What do we have in our savings account? A couple of $100. Do we have a 401k? Do we have an IRA? We have to start having those conversations, about putting money away and saving and less spending. Again, sensitive.
Right.
Because again, we're not trying to tell people not to live, because again, we have to live, but we also have to make some changes within ourselves. One of the things I always observe, we look good. We got the nice glasses, jewelry, we drive a nice car. But then when it comes to getting pre-approved, we're sitting at, marginal credit score, lack of assets, and in some cases, income. Income also can be a possible barrier, because, we haven't been on that job for a long period of time, We and again, that's another thing we talk about too, or one of the things I talk about, especially when I'm talking to young people. What do you want?
Right.
You want a job or do you want a career?
Right.
See, a career is going to allow you to turn that corner. A career is going to allow you to advance. It's going to, in my opinion, teach you that discipline, versus a job from the movie. A job is nothing but work.
Right.
So we want to get folks to move from a job to a career. I think everybody at this table has a career, and it's a career that they're proud of, and it's a career that they enjoy going to. I always, I try to tell people, when you have a career, you never look at the clock. Because when it's time to go, it's to say, oh, shoot, it's time to go. But when you have a job, first thing you do, you come into work, you say, when's my first break? When's lunchtime?
Yep.
And when's my second break?
Yep.
And then you're still clock watching to see when the time ends. So it's a great question. I know it's a kind of a loaded answer, but again, it comes to two things, or three things. Having a career leads to discipline. That leads to savings. That leads to using the credit cards for what it's meant to be used for. Because again, we also got to go back to the origins of credit. Why was credit created? It was created to buy services and goods today to pay them back tomorrow. It was not created to live on. But the way credit is being marketed today, it's being marketed, the campaigns are being marketed to spend.
Yeah.
What's in your wallet, earning points, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We all see the commercials. I don't need to go into it in too much detail.
Right.
But those would be some of the things I would say, Bill.
I like that. That's really valuable insights. So, yeah, when I try to think about this, I think about credit score, but I also think about debt to income ratio, and that goes exactly to what you're saying. Just because you have 10 grand or 5 grand on a credit card, let's use Linda's 30%. If you have 10, because this is easier, if you have 10 grand on a credit card, you shouldn't be carrying a balance of more than $3,000
Exactly.
unless you want to see your credit score start to be impacted by that.
But not only will it impact your credit scores, Bill, it's also going to impact the ability to have savings,
Yeah.
the reserves.
Yeah.
Because remember, we get paid based on the net,
Right.
not gross.
Yeah, that's another good point.
You see, so when you get your net take home,
Mm-hmm.
and if all of our net is going towards rent or mortgage, you know, you still have, I like to call it necessary bills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or necessary spending or
Yep.
unnecessary spending.
Yeah,
We talked about that on
Netflix
Saturday.
and
Yeah.
who knows what.
Right. So when your net take home, and if the majority of your net take home is going towards unnecessary spending,
Mm-hmm.
something's got to give,
Yeah.
or something's going to give, and what's going to give is the ability to
Yeah.
put money away, is the ability to save.
That's right.
This is great information. So, so Trent is one of many bankers, bank representatives in the Twin Cities that are very familiar with our work and, frankly, work with us all the time.
Yeah.
And for that matter, Kim is kind of in this network as well. People like Linda, the Homeownership Advisors, have got a group of people all working together to make homeownership possible and to make the process work. If you went to Linda and you asked for a recommendation for a banker, she's not going to throw Trent's name out and then have that be it. She's going to throw out at least 3 of the
That's
bankers that we work with all the time because we want to make sure that we stay unbiased. But know that we have this informal group of people that we work with all the time that know all about the down payment assistance programs and how to stack them and all that other magical stuff. And so anyways, yeah, we're all working together. Kim, I want to talk to you as well. Let's find my place on here. We've heard a lot about the great resources and tips around home buying so far, but honestly, why does any of this help us if we know that if there are no starter homes out there and interest rates are so high? Is homeownership still possible, Kim?
Well, I would definitely say it is still possible. It is still achievable. Before I get into detail, I really want to recognize Linda and the counselors and the advisors. And I also want to recognize the Trents, the mortgage, the lenders, because without you, it would not be possible, right? There's a community of subject matter experts, right? And I would definitely say if anybody's looking to buy a home, they go to the subject matter expert, right?
That's
right? And I always, if I get clients that come to me, I'm going to send them to a Linda, right? I'm going to send them to the housing counseling agencies because a lot of people don't realize what they have to do, what it entails. And they don't have a plan, right? They want to buy a home, but they don't know the first thing what they need to do. Yes. As Trent was talking about, savings, asset, all those things are important. And when you go to a counseling agency or an advisor, they'll walk you through that whole process.
Right.
They will tell you what you need, and they develop a plan.
Right.
They develop a plan with you. And once you're done working with them, however long it takes, like as you stated, it could take up to 3 years. And what gets me is the thing is it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. There's resources and tools that are available to anyone that's looking to buy a home. That's right. So we're here to give you the tools and the resources to tell you this is your first step. Reach out to the housing counseling agencies, reach out to model cities, reach out to Linda, and they'll put you on a plan, develop a plan to get you started with home ownership. Now, once that plan's completed, however long it takes, they will get people mortgage ready. And when you're mortgage ready, you're ready to apply. You have the assets, you have the down payment assistance. If you need it, it's available. The advisors can help you through that whole process. But then you're passed on to a Trent, right? And you're passed on to a real estate agent. I'm not going to work with you. Well, I'm not going to start showing you properties until I know you're qualified.
Right.
That's right. Or I'd be driving all over town, and then I'd be like, we find a house, right? And it'd be like, and here's here's the thing. Before there were pre-approval letters, realtors used to do that. You know that.
Yeah.
We used to drive
Sure.
folks around and then, okay, you ready to buy a house? Yep. Okay. Are you qualified? No. Right? And so it's important that you follow those steps.
Right.
Work with the housing counselor advisor. Then go to get mortgage ready. Then work with the lender. Work with your Trents to get you mortgage ready and get you pre-approved.
Right.
Once you get pre-approved, they'll tell you what you qualify for based on your income and your income and assets, right? They want to see what you have coming in, your income and your debts, right? They're going to look at all that and say, okay, based on that, based on your history, right? Based on your history and how you've been paying people, right? Because that's important, how you pay people.
Exactly.
You know, the other day I was having a conversation with my son. I'm putting him on blast right now, but he's like 30. and I was telling him that your credit is, you got to take care of your credit.
Yes.
And I was explaining to him, it's a credit report is like how you, if you borrow money from somebody, right? So I borrow some money from Trent, right? And I don't pay Trent back when I tell him. And then I asked Linda, I said, Linda, well, can you borrow me some money? Now, I don't know. Linda and Trent are talking to each other. That's the credit bureaus, right?
That's right.
They're talking to each other. And then Trent will say to Linda, well, I wouldn't borrow her no money because she didn't pay me. You know, she didn't pay me when she told me she was going to pay me. So that's the way the credit bureaus look.
Yeah.
And we need to educate people that that's how the system works. And if you understand how the system works, then you're able to be able to navigate through the system. And that's real important. But so I had to say that
that's
because I had to
great. I really
recognize
appreciate
the
it.
panelists because you have a great group of panelists here. But, you know, I'm excited about home ownership. Home ownership is still possible. You know, there's people that are still on the fence, right? They're like, oh, I'm not going to buy a home right now. The rates are too high. And it's kind of like, really? Because, you know, there's less competition right now on the market, right? You don't have the multiple offers, right? The rates are high. They're higher than they were before, but they were like 2.5%, which was record low. I'd never heard of the rates being that high. I know when I first got in the business, and I'm probably telling on myself, but I assumed a mortgage that was like 13.5%.
No, speak truth on rates.
So, you know, and I tell people what comes up will eventually come down. You know, things are secular, right? In the economy, they always have been, right? So less competition. You make it, you're going to get a higher rate, but you know what? If the rates turn around, then you can refinance. Right. That's why your credit's important. You maintain your credit. You make sure you make those payments on time. And then when it's ready to, the rates get lower, you're ready to refinance, you're going to be in a better position than you were because then you're going to have additional income available to you. Yeah. So, I mean, and now's not a bad time. You know, housing prices are still, you know, I think they did some reports around 300,000 is kind of the average in terms of purchasing a property. So that have been on the market that have sold recently. So that kind of gives you some information there. I don't know if you call those entry-level homes, but I mean, what's the median price of homes in Minneapolis, St. Paul? Like over 300,000, right?
375 or something?
Yeah. So, I mean, it keeps on increasing every time I hear a different number. So, you know, there's still an opportunity out there. And I would say that there's going to be additional opportunities out there with a lot of the down payment assistance dollars that are going to be out there. And if a person isn't ready today, it's kind of like, that's okay. That's okay. Start somewhere. Get started. Maybe you're not going to purchase for another year or so, but you know what? Get started with the process. Start getting your, like I tell my son, just handle your business.
Right.
Just handle your business. Get your stuff in order. So when it's time to purchase, you're able to.
And I just wanted to add even on two things, just even on the interest rates, because historically, you know, rates have been much higher.
That's right.
You know, so where the rates are today, I think we're floating around 7.5% to 8%. When Kim and I'm aging myself too. When Kim and I got into this business, we worked for Prudential Home Mortgage, and back then, I mean, rates were like 9%. You know, so we just got spoiled for about 5 or 6 years, where the rates were steady from 5% and lower. The other thing I wanted to add, because especially when we're talking about credit and borrowing money from each other or borrowing money from the system, and because that credit bureau is it's not only a snapshot, it's a history of who you are. You know, it's a bio of where you lived. It has information on, who you paid on time, who you haven't paid on time. So in conclusion, credit is about character. It's about character. And who are you? Are you the person you say you are? Are you the person who's going to borrow $500 from somebody and then pay them back when you say you're gonna pay them back? Are you the person who makes a charge and disciplines yourself to say, I know I have to pay this back in a timely manner, and read the guidelines and the information of credit, understanding the interest and the APRs and all of that good stuff, because at the end of the day, it's a sign of your character. Who you are. Who are you?
Yep.
Yeah. And I would even say a lot of people, they come out of high school, they go into college, and then all of a sudden the credit companies are contacting them, giving them credit cards, right? And they don't fully understand credit, and then they get in over their heads, and then they're like, okay, they just give up on credit. I would just speak to those that are in that situation. Don't give up on credit, because you can still get a clean slate. You can still start fresh.
Yep.
Don't let that hinder you. And some people get caught up in that and say, oh, well, I'll never own a home, and they just continue to rent. And also, too, renting's important, because some credit bureaus, they get that information from your landlord, right? And they're starting to pull that information from landlords, which I think is a good thing, because it shows the history, as you stated. It talks about the character, and that's really important.
Well, as long as that the credit score has an impact now on pretty much everything we do. And as long as that credit score is the impact of interest rates, insurance premiums, getting a job in some cases, because there are some employers that will do a credit check.
Look at your credit score.
As well as a background check on you.
They'll look at everything else, Facebook, LinkedIn,
rent,
everything else.
all of these things, So again, it comes down to character. Who are you? Are you who you say you are?
Exactly.
That's credit.
And it's important that you get the best credit score.
Right.
I mean, it's important, and I'll say that the advisors and the counselors, they're going to position you to get the best credit score. Absolutely. I mean, I've worked with Trent, and Trent's all about we can get you a loan at a lower if you got a low credit score, but it ain't going to be the best interest rate, right? And sometimes it's like people need to be like, okay, maybe I'll clean up. I'll do some things. What do I need to do? Linda, they'll let you know exactly what you need to do.
That's right.
You put that plan together to get that credit score higher, to position you to get that best interest rate. You get that best interest rate, that's where you get the lower payment, and you're able to take advantage of that. And that's
what did
important.
I say Saturday? That's VIP.
That's VIP. That's VIP. Well, and some people might say, "Oh, it's only 1% or something," but 1% on a $300,000 mortgage over 30 years, it's like, I don't know, it's like $70,000, isn't it? It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Suffice it to say that you could pay yourself from that money.
That's right.
That you take the time to fix your credit. And come out ahead.
Well, what do we always say? Here's the truth. You're paying somebody's mortgage. Yeah. Either you're paying your own mortgage or you're paying somebody else's. Now, if you're renting, you're paying somebody else's, and it's kind of like, why? If Linda said, she says, if you're paying over $1,800 a month, you should be in a house. You should be building equity, and that's what homeownership is: building equity and a legacy, and helping to build a legacy for your family.
Right.
So that's important.
And that's not to diminish the difficulty of the prospect, but somebody like Linda, working with somebody like Trent and Kim, can help you achieve that for yourself, and then move on in a much better situation.
Sure. People have said to me, I feared coming to talk to you about my credit. I said, are you serious? Do you know how much credit I've seen in my lifetime? Everything there is about credit I have seen, and I have seen scores go up. Yeah. And matter of fact, I don't want to get somebody to 660. I want somebody to get over 700 to get in the VIP club, because it's going to follow you in life. I don't think, if you move out of Minnesota, guess what goes with you?
That credit score.
Your credit score.
Not the snow if you're moving south.
Exactly. And we want people to be able to get the best interest rates no matter what they're purchasing. Here we're talking about home ownership.
Right.
But credit cards and so on that we all need and use from time to time have the best interest, so the interest rates have the best credit score, so the interest rates are lower.
And
That's how
Bill,
we save
one
money.
other thing too, I think people need to understand, we're sitting here and we're speaking on this, but we're not coming at individuals from a we read the book concept.
Right.
We're coming at least for me, I can't speak for the two
Hello,
ladies,
yeah.
but
Me
but
too.
we're coming at folks from an experience,
Yes.
from having good credit and having bad credit and having good
Exactly.
credit again, and now keeping it, understanding how it really works. I mean, I'm some years old.
Yeah.
And it took me into my and I've been doing this business for a long time,
Right.
but it took me really into my 40s
Uh-huh.
to get it. Where finally the light bulb went off.
Yeah.
Ding.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right.
You don't have to have 8 or 9 different credit cards,
Right.
because that was me.
Right.
And maxed out on 80%, 90% utilization, looking at one of the credit, well, which one am I going to use tonight? This one, I got $180 on this one.
Here's 3. See which one works.
Right. You guys remember the movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., the Titans movies or something. It was a gospel movie. And he's putting this, giving the lady the credit card and see which one works. And she gives it back to him. That one doesn't work. Try that one. Well, see, that's me. That's that experience.
Yeah.
But then I also knew, man, I can't live like this.
Right.
I can't sustain like this. I can't save. If something goes wrong in my home,
Right.
we got to change. I had to change my behavior. That's why when I'm speaking, I'm speaking on changing the behavior, and things will change for the better.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing your savings rise. You'll start seeing your credit scores go up. You'll start seeing more opportunities come your way.
Right.
And it takes discipline to do that. Thanks for sharing your story.
Yeah,
I love that, because a lot of people, that's how they're living right now today.
Yeah.
I'll say my credit story is my mother raised 5 kids, right? Lived in the projects, right? She was on welfare, but my mother, she didn't talk much. You don't have those conversations at the dinner table about credit, right?
Nope,
right.
nope.
But I used to just watch my mother, right? And my mother, and even though she didn't talk about credit, I could tell that she was paying her bills on time, because anything that she needed, she could get. Right? If the washing machine went out, she could get it. Right? And I was observing that. It was like, as I got older, I found that it was credit, because I knew she didn't have any money, right? I knew she didn't have any money, but it was credit that she had. So I took note of that, right? And then as I got into, school and in the banking business, I started understanding more about savings, right? And that it was important to save. And I remember when I was working in this one girl, she had her little 401k thing, and she was talking about how much she had, and I was like, dang, right, because I didn't have that much, and I was like, well, I'll save the max, because they're matching it, right? Because that's what. And so there's certain things that you can implement to take care of you and to address those things, right? So you can definitely don't have to experience those hardships, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the key word, hardships.
Yeah. You don't, sometimes we bring stuff on ourselves and we really don't need to. And, the thing is, I would say it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not the be all end all. Just don't that be the end of your story, right? Because you can start things anew. And again, we're here to talk about home ownership, but in order to be a homeowner, you have to have the credit figured out. You have to have the assets, the savings figured out. You have to have those things which we're talking about, right? To put you in the best position you can to achieve home ownership, which is all about building wealth, generational wealth.
It's all about building wealth.
And that's important.
So listeners and viewers, I think you can tell this, Kim and Linda and Trent, they are totally representative of everybody that we work with. They're committed to what they do. They're committed to the wealth building, sustainable power of home ownership. And Yeah, and I'll just say the same thing about Kim that I said about Trent. We work with realtors all across the state every day, and I should say this too. And we should touch on this. You have to find a realtor or a banker that makes it their mission to help you get the most you can get for your home buying dollar. So you should interview them before you start working with them. Our advisors have recommendations. Like I said, they'll give you 3. They're not just going to give you 1, but you can think about that. And you got to know that they're going to make you their number 1 priority. And that's what the 3 of these guys around the table do here. So
definitely. It's important to have find somebody who you can trust.
That's right.
You know, and if it's somebody that you're not feeling, then that's okay.
Right.
Find somebody that work this, because you need somebody to work for you and to have your best interest. You know what I'm saying? And to be with you for the process, not for you just to sign that contract and be like, okay, when you go to close so I can get paid, right?
Yeah.
And I like to add too, because of the market that we're in right now, and we really got into this quick decision mentality, you know, in the past 5 years or last 4 years.
So you got to act fast.
Right. Everybody wants an answer now. But when you're buying a home, you know, buying a home is probably one of the biggest investments you're ever going to make. You know, so you got to remember a couple of things. You know, when you're dealing with a loan officer, you know, the loan officer is going to ask you a couple of questions. And 2 of the questions that they're going to ask you is, tell me, you know, what is your date of birth and what is your social security number? Now, those 2 sets of numbers are probably the most important numbers that identify who you are. So why would you give that information to a voice?
Good point.
So we got to get back into the one-on-one and building relationships.
Yes,
do this business in person.
Right.
You go to a home buying counselor, they don't do this over the phone. You know, they don't say, tell me your name, first name, and, you know, tell me all your spending habits and tell me what you pay over the phone. You got to go meet with them. You got to go talk to them. It's the same with a loan officer. Build a relationship. Same with a realtor. Build a relationship, because when you're building a relationship, you know, you're building something special. You're building longevity. You're building something where now you can refer that loan officer to your brother, to your sister. You can refer that real estate agent to your brother, to your sister. You can refer that individual that is having challenges or feels they're not quite ready, and you can refer them to a home buying counselor because this is a face-to-face business. This is not a quick yes over the phone, and
or Zoom.
Right. And the other thing I'll add on that, because all of our information is being compromised. You know, we're all being hacked as we speak. You know, we're getting crazy texts and crazy emails. So why would we just give that pertinent, important information that identifies you to a voice? This is face-to-face, people. Do it face-to-face. Build relationships.
That's good.
I love it. I love it. All right, panelists, I think we're over time, but that's great. What a great conversation. I want to say this to listeners and viewers. If you are interested in exploring home ownership for your own household, you can take a home buying class and enlist the help of a homeownership advisor, such as Linda, for free. You can go to our website to find all of those advisory organizations all across the state, hocmn.org. Our advisors and educators are embedded in orgs around the state, and they'll work with you to help get you mortgage ready, educate you on the buying process from A to Z, and walk you through every step of the process. I want to thank our great guests today, Linda, Kim, and Trent. Thanks so much for coming on the show, you guys.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As always, I want to acknowledge our sponsors, Associated Bank, Midwest One Bank, Bremer Bank, thank you, Trent, and Old National Bank. Our sincere thanks to each of these organizations for their support. Thanks, and see you next time.